Welcome to the Kingdom of Lumen, a land of lush forests, stunning waters, and a concerning number of deadly monsters. You play as a nameless young hermit who is called to action when a young woman is getting all hassled by a goblin. So you murder that goblin. And wouldn't you know it, that woman is a princess, and now her dad, the king, thinks you're up to the task of harnessing the four elements to defeat his daughter's captor, who is this bad dude named Valion, who also harnessed the elements and wants to open the door from the world of darkness through this growing crack, so that darkness can dark it up all over the kingdom, because that's just how darkness be. So the king asks if you'll save the entire world, and you're like, yeah, I will help you with your growing crack problem. Welcome to Random Game Reviews. I made a spreadsheet containing every game in the PlayStation Store, and I let a random number generator that hates me decide what to play and review. This week, the number generator has decided that I will play Aggelos. So before we embark on our quest, what is Aggelos? Well, it's a retro-style action platformer which are commonly referred to as metroidvania games due to their similarities to the Metroid and Castlevania series. However, this game reminds me more of Mega Man and DuckTales for the NES, so I would probably call it a Mega Duck game. Oh, and there's also heart containers and themed dungeons like in Zelda 2, so in this Zelda Duck game, you will hop platforms, kill thousands of monsters, solve puzzles, and fight bosses. Let's break down the 6 main elements of a Castle Troid game to see if Aggelos is for you. Element 1. Style. Aggelos takes its retro roots seriously, so I'll be using a retro grading rubric to review this game. While its art and character sprites are a lot prettier than what you would see in some SNES platformers, this game exudes old school cool, like a radical dog wearing shades, or a Looney Tunes jean jacket. With charming chiptune music that is neither amazing or annoying, you can bop along while you enjoy the excellent level, character, and monster designs that stick perfectly to that 16-bit aesthetic and color palette. This, combined with the buttery smooth combat animations, earns Aggelos a style rating of 5 neon fanny packs out of 5. Element 2. Platforming. The main function of any platformer is to make you hop from platform to platform with the laser precision of an orthopedic surgeon. Aggelos mostly hits a good balance, and has solid sections where you need to really pay attention and plan your jumps to avoid catastrophe, as well as sections that are simple but fun to navigate. However, the game's over-reliance on making you use your jump attack as a second jump makes large portions of the game obnoxious to deal with, due to how awkward it can be to input the sequence of commands correctly on your controller in certain situations. I give the platforming 3.5 yin-yang pogs out of 5. Element 3. Fighting monsters. The combat in Aggelos is pretty fun, which is good, because fighting monsters is most of what you'll do since they respawn the second you turn your back on them. You will amass several special moves from scrolls, as well as magical abilities from mastering the 4 elements that help create a variety of strategies for dispatching monsters several thousand times. The monsters represent a solid hindrance and will slow you down with projectiles as well as knock you off of platforms. There's an incredible variety of monsters who all feel unique in their movements and attacks. Perhaps too much variety. It feels like every other screen presents you with a monster you've never seen before, which earns Aggelos a fighting monsters rating of 4.5 sock'em boppers out of 5. Element 4. Bosses. I just want to say that I love that the common terminology for the big bad monster at the end of the dungeon is boss. As if each dungeon is like a startup business created to entice, trap, and kill adventurers for their sweet loot. And then the boss monsters go and employ smaller monsters in entry-level security positions that probably pay pretty poorly. Because let's be honest, it's not like this fish monster can go get a job at the fire dungeon. It's a fish. The bosses in Aggelos are wonderful from a design standpoint in that they look great. Each boss monster is vibrant, unique, and pleasant to look at. But the bosses in Aggelos are disappointing from a design standpoint in that they aren't very challenging to fight. Sure, they'll give you stuff to dodge or make you hop around a bit, but really you just have to either jump on them using your sword as a pogo stick, or bide your time picking away at them until you can just get in close and wail on them because they'll die faster than you will. I give the boss monsters 2.5 blockbuster VHS tapes out of 5. Element 5. Puzzles and dungeons. If you're gonna have themed temples that hide mystical elemental powers, you're gonna need puzzles to keep Tammy Villager and John Q. Castleguard at bay. Powers are for cool hero dudes only. One of the neat things about the elemental powers that you unlock is that on top of providing offensive magic, they all allow you to solve puzzles in their respective dungeons and in the game in general. The earth element lets you create platforms. The fire element creates portals to bypass barriers. The air element lets you zoom through the sky majestically. The water element creates an air bubble that lets you float in water, which I would argue is also an air power. Aggelos is littered with interesting and challenging puzzles, and you'll usually have to solve a lot of them to progress through any given dungeon. So while there's a really great variety of puzzles to solve, my one complaint is that I found the difficulty progression of the dungeons kinda weird. Earth Temple, pretty easy. Water Temple, kinda challenging. Fire Temple, infuriating and confusing. Air Temple, pretty easy. All in all, I give Puzzles and Dungeons 4 Goosebumps books out of 5. Element 6, Secrets. Any platformer worth its pixels is packed to the tits with secrets to be uncovered, and Aggelos does not disappoint in quantity. You'll need to keenly remember to backtrack and look for secret rooms with each new power you unlock, as well as employ some real creativity to figure out some of the trickier secrets. But things can get pretty tedious when you're dealing with the multitude of weird fetch quests that this game makes you slog through. For instance, do you want the vial you need to collect the magic water required to bless the best armor in the game? Well, that's as simple as getting the cellar key to the library so you can retrieve a coupon to buy a book that teaches you every language in the world so you can talk to a monkey and trade him some bananas for a pendant which belongs to the princess, who will give you a tiara that you can bring to the crocodile that collects royal objects, who will give you a moon seal which you can use to open a moon door and retrieve a fancy shell which you can give to this thing, who will give you a star seal which you can use to open a star door, where you can retrieve a crystal ball which you'll give to this lady, who will give you a scepter which you can bring back to the crocodile, who will give you a sun seal needed to open the sun door, where you can finally get the goddamn vial. The other one that got me was needing to remember old obstacles I encountered that could only be bypassed once I got the fire element, so I could stumble about until I found the parts needed to make a lyre to perform a sick solo on top of a tower to make it grow, instead of just buying this other lyre on the wall of the music shop. I give Aggelos' Secrets 2.5 Jonathan Taylor Thomases out of 5. Now that I've adequately reviewed the game, I can get to what I really wanted to talk about today. Hilarious old school video game logic. I arrived at the first village in the game to find only 6 residents. An herbalist, a shopkeep, an armorer, a guy, a lady, and a kid. It seemed like a shockingly small number of people for a village, but possibly makes sense since mere steps from town is a forest dense with animals and flowers that immediately try to kill you. Like with any old school game, I have a lot of questions like, where do the people sleep if there's no beds in the houses? Where do they poop? What do they do all day? How can a weapon and armor shop be a viable business in a town this small? And what does the smith do when you buy the only 2 pieces he had for sale? Spurred on by the smallness of this village, I decided to conduct a quick census of the kingdom. Bosco Village had 6 people, there were 4 fish people in Atlant, half of whom are shopkeeps, 8 people in Polulu, a quarter of whom are librarians, 9 people in Fyra, and 6 in Celestia. The castle had the highest population at 10 people, including the king and princess. That means, including the main character, this kingdom is home to all of 44 people. 1 in 4 people in this kingdom are shopkeeps, which does not seem sustainable. I'm not sure why you'd bother being king of 43 other people to the point where you'd have a whole castle about it, or who would go through all the trouble of building cool temples and filling them with monsters to protect magic rings, or why someone would even want to open a portal to conquer a world that only has 44 people in it. If I lived in a place with only 43 other people and they asked me to risk my life repeatedly on a grueling quest to stop ghosts from a hell dimension, I would just move. It's time again to answer the question, would I play this game if I were not destined to do so? For Aggelos, the answer is yes. The combat and puzzles are on point with a great blend of challenge and fun. The graphics are a beautifully rendered homage to the 16-bit platformer era, and while there were some minor annoyances with story progression and difficulty scaling, overall Aggelos does a great job of scratching that old school adventure game itch. That does it for this episode. Thanks for joining me on my quest. Make sure to validate me by hitting the like button and tune in next time for a special surprise on Random Game Reviews.